Welcome to Mailbag, not brought from you from the Denby or with Underberg this week, but we're at the Denby in spirit and we are all Underberg in one way or another. I am joined by Warren Doyle and Dan Bain. Lads, it's been a while. How is it?
Weirdly nice to be back on Zoom doing this, but it's been an excellent couple of shows down the Denby and Underberg flowing down our veins, down our gullets. So yeah, no, been good.
Just for the record, none of us do actually take Underberg intravenously.
No, that was a figure of speech.
Just in the eyeball.
No, that's a shout, isn't it? Just pop it in the corner of the eye like I do.
Get drunk quicker that way.
You've already done that, haven't you, Dan? Definitely. Yeah. Right. On that bombshell, we'll get right into the questions. Let's start off with the Maggie round, because she has her own round now. So the first one, is Coke Zero just Diet Coke for men uncomfortable with their own masculinity that they don't want to be seen with a girl's drink?
I didn't know Diet Coke was classed as a girl's drink. Diet Coke's all right.
Yeah. Must be the second Maggie mixes in.
Isn't there some sort of chemical that's in Diet Coke that women find addictive or something? Isn't there something like that?
I don't know.
Don't know about that.
I know that the two taste very different.
It would make sense because the people I know who like Diet Coke the most are always girls.
There's more of a similarity to Fat Coke with Zero than there is with Diet. There's definitely, Diet has a flavour all of its own that isn't, it's almost like it's not trying to replicate Fat Bloke Coke. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? It's a bit like non-alcoholic beer. Don't try and experience it like you're having a beer. It's kind of its own drink. I mean, some are better than others. Like Lucky Saint, like you put me on to, Dan, that's really nice. The Brooklyn beer one's all right as well. There's a few that are decent, but you've got to kind of not treat it like you're drinking beer so much because it's different. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the technology for making non-alcohol beer has accelerated in its technicality a lot, because originally it all tasted like unfermented beer. It all tasted very sweet, almost like raw malt. And now, because of the technology of stripping out, basically you brew it alcoholically and then you strip the alcohol out. So you can, there are also yeasts that will basically die off at certain points so they can make it dry, because that was the other thing. Zero alcohol beer was always too sweet.
Yeah.
So it makes it dry. They've also, hop technology and extracts and stuff are a lot better. So you can now get beers that are as close as you can, technically and scientifically. They're as close as you can get. They're dry, they're crisp, they've got a good hop character. Like something like Beavertown's Laser Crush, which is a zero IPA, big juicy, kind of modern style fruit salad kind of thing. That's incredible, but it should be, because they're owned by Heineken and have all the technology behind them to make something that's
like that in the first place.
Yeah, but it does, because of the way it drinks, you drink it like a soft drink. Do you know what I mean? Because it's so juicy and it's almost like drinking tropical fruit juice. And because it's a zero, you tend to crush it. You tend to just go bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
And that's where they differ. And as you say, that's why you approach it differently, because you're just chugging it down and it's not doing anything. Whereas,
in our local Sainsbury's, they actually got the Gamma Ray, I think, and the is it Laser Crush?
Laser Crush, yeah.
Got them mixed up. So put the Gamma Ray in with the non-alcoholic beers, which must have been fun for anyone who wasn't paying attention. I'm just going to search on Diet Coke women, and the first people also ask, is Diet Coke for women and Coke Zero for men? This is a brand new one on me.
Yeah. No, I've not. I mean, I used to like Diet Coke, but I'm not a big Diet Coke fan anyway. I'm more Pepsi. I'm more into Pepsi. But even then, like, if someone lashes me a Diet Pepsi, I'll drink it. I'm not like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a
weirdo. I didn't realise, like you guys, I didn't realise it was a thing.
So the answer to this question Coca-Cola Zero versus Diet Coke, difference in comparison on diffin.com. Don't know what that is. The difference is the target market segment. Coke Zero is Coca-Cola's product line aimed at men, and Diet Coke is aimed at women.
There you go. I mean, there was the famous advert, wasn't there? Diet Coke break it's 11:30. It's 11:30. But that's the only significance I can think of that it's played into. I don't know.
It was definitely, those adverts definitely pitched it there, didn't they? They pitched it at that kind of market, and I guess, you know, the zero thing. I mean, I had a can a couple of days ago. It was all right, but I'm not a big Coke person anyway.
No. Them Diet Coke adverts, they asked me to be in that, but I had to turn it down.
Same, looked too good in a white t-shirt.
Yeah. It was just I couldn't do it at the time. So I had to stop.
Exactly, mate. I feel your pain there. So we're saying, Diet Cokes for fellas and Diet Cokes for women. Do you know what? Just drink whatever you like. Just
exactly. Yeah. In this modern world, 2022, drink what you want.
Especially Underberg.
Yeah.
Maggie's also said mailbag karaoke. This isn't a question; it's a demand. Fair enough. We should do it.
Well, we said pre-recording here before we hit record that we'd have to have a few bevies. I mean, I'm like anyone. I like the odd little bit of karaoke now and again, especially when you've had a few. But you know, I think it needs to be a certain time and place and the feeling, the mood has to be right.
Yeah. Give us your karaoke song. I mean, don't have to do a rendition of it. Just tell us what it is.
Well, do you know what? Interestingly, in work, they want to take us. They want to do a social for a karaoke night, and what the rule is, you have to sing the song that was number one when you were born. Oh. So my song that was number one when I was born was Berlin, Take My Breath Away.
I reckon you could do a version of that, lad.
So, I mean, I'd struggle a bit with the high notes, like, but, you know, it's a good power ballad, isn't it? Give it a go, like.
Well, it is, and I mean, at least it's one that you know, because...
Yeah, I mean, it's better. I'm better singing that rather than my mate who's got to sing Do the Bartman.
Oof,
which was number one when he was born.
Mine was... Chanson d'Amour by Manhattan Transfer, which I'm sure is a song my dad loves.
Yeah, there's the bit where it goes that bit.
It's that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can't possibly say that. What's yours, Dan? Do you know?
No.
Go ahead. Give your birthday.
Let's have a look.
October 18th, 1976.
Okay, 76.
76. I'm hoping it's like, you know, The Clash or something. But it will probably be Peters and Lee.
It's got to be, isn't it?
October what?
18th of October.
18th.
October 18th, 76.
October 16th, 1976, for 4 weeks, was Mississippi by Pussycat. Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. I'll have to get learning it.
Yes, so that's what the plan, that's what the rule is in work. Apparently, what we've got to do for our.
That's a great shout, to be fair.
Yeah, number one when you were born.
Have you got a karaoke song, Dan?
I used to do a Scott Walker impression years ago when we were in the studio and we did sound checks and stuff. I used to do this sort of Scott Walker thing, and I used to sing popular Britpop numbers of the day in the style of Scott Walker. But you know, for the kids, they don't know who Scott Walker is.
I like the sound of it.
I'll be honest, I don't know who Scott Walker is. I feel a bit.
They don't know what all that's about anymore. Yeah. So I'd probably belt out some Smiths or something.
Shout.
Vicar in a tutu.
Yeah.
The good one. Quite short as well.
Yeah. Or Queen is Dead.
Apparently so. Mine was the only one that really springs to mind that I've done was Grey Day by Madness, which I did to a virtually empty pub in Blackpool on a Thursday night after watching the specials at the Empress Ballroom. And it upheld my theory that you cannot have a bad night in Blackpool. It's impossible.
I once did. I was in Denver, and I once did karaoke in this bar in Denver, right in the middle of downtown Denver. And I think I've told this story on Mailbag before. I did Sinead O'Connor, Nothing Compares. And, you know, I think I've said this before, and I'll say on the show, over there, the worse you are, the more everyone joins in. And it's almost like here, if you're really good, everyone's like, get this dickhead off, you just think he is being so good. Over there, well, in Denver anyway, if you were bad, no one cared. So after me, I sang it absolutely terrible. Obviously, I'm not a singer. And then this fella come up and sang Word Up after me and did all the dancing and all the and they were into it as if it was like a gig or something. And I was just, not the bar for me. I need to go back home and singing a shit karaoke song in front of loads of pissheads. That'll do me instead, rather than trying to be frigging on X Factor or something. So
did they have the red cod piece as well?
do you know what? Probably. I think I just walked myself out of shame at that point, because it was just one of them. I mean, the DJ was like, "Do us a favour, mate, do one."
I wonder if like the reverse is true as well. So there's some bars in America where it's like Roadhouse, where they're behind chicken wire, and if you leave shit, you just get bottled off.
Oh, I'm sure it's not a nationwide thing. I'm sure it's it was just happened to be where it was. But yeah, I thought, this would be a ballad, everyone will join in. No chance. So it's kind of put me off singing Sinead O'Connor now.
We played a night in Basildon in the mid-90s. That was a hardcore kind of punk night, thrash night. And we were booked wrongly by the promoter because we were a very androgynous, despite what I look like now. We're a very fey, androgynous suede, kind of mock suede band. And I used to wear more eyeliner than sense, and I had a feather boa and stuff. And we came on to do the sound check, and everything was groovy, and the two bands we were on with were terrifying. And they were like, whoa, like that, not a song over 58 seconds, And just before the gig started, they put the cage up. They actually brought the cage on in front of the monitors and cable tied the cage to the lighting and the sound rigs. And we had like the diamond wire fence in front of us. And we were like, oh, this is fun. You know what I mean? It looked interesting, And anyway, first band goes on, called something like, Noise Terrorist or something. And they're on for like 18 minutes. And they're just like, like that. And then I'm like, shit, we've got to go on now. And we go on, and it's all like, Rickenbacker, jangly guitars, and me standing there like this. And we were getting the same bottles just pinging off the fence
cage,
and just splashback of cider. It was just like, it was the time of Bulmers, you know what I mean? No, Magners, the big, and it was just bottles of Magners. And as they were hitting the cage, it was just splashback of like cider and like that. And that was the gig my mum chose to come and see us play with my auntie, and they were in the back. And I was like, because I used to I used to do the whole foot on the monitor, croony nonsense sort of stuff. Yeah. And I couldn't, because if I put my foot on the monitor, I was like that against the fence.
So you were gone. You were gone then.
So I dragged my mic back about 6 foot from the cage, and it was just like showering.
It sat on the drummer.
And I think we got 4 or 5 songs in, and I turned around to the band and went, right, we're going to do New Rose by the Damned, and we're going. So we did New Rose by the Damned, which quelled the anger, and then we got the hell out of there. Just like, we turned around to the promoter, we're like, we'll pick our kit up tomorrow, mate. And we just binned it and got out. But
got out and relatively safely.
Only after one time I've been to see the Damned, they didn't do New Rose. Useless. I know. I was fuming. You basically just did all the 80s goth stuff. I swear he did Eloise about 6 times.
Oh yeah, Eloise, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't impressed. Maggie's also asked, you can add one thing to the Goodison Kiosks. What is it, and why is it Greg's?
I mean, I like Greg's, don't get me wrong, but I'm just not. I like the donuts they have, but I'm not like, it's not like the be all and end all for me. If I could add something, I don't know, I'd like some sort of, I don't know, it's going to sound a bit classic, some sort of like wraps and food and like kebabby type food thing, just to stuff your face, something like that. Yeah, halloumi wraps or something.
You've changed, man.
I know, I've been down south too long, haven't I?
I don't think you can, go wrong with anything that's got cheese in it.
Yeah, cheese and pastry.
And we've just, because it's been, the Lidl and the Aldi do their kind of Oktoberfest thing.
Yeah.
Right. One of the best things is they do frozen pretzels, the big pretzels. My son's obsessed with them. So stack the freezer full of them. But the other thing they do are these tiny, like, croquettes packed full of Gruyere cheese.
They do them in Marks, I think.
Oh,
I'm do you know what? I've just advertised Marks as well. I'm so middle class, aren't I?
But yeah, cheesy croquettes or something like that. That'd be cool.
See, I was going to go to Asda for some pizza after this, but I might just nip to Aldi.
Yeah, get yourself some them. They sound all right.
I like the sound of them. Those pretzels as well. Albert Schloss in Manchester, they're opening one in Liverpool. That's like a German beer house thing.
Yeah.
And they do the pretzels with this just amazing mustard dip.
That's it. Yeah, we used to do it in our bar when we put our Munich style lager on. And when you go to when we went to Pilsen Raquel for my 40th birthday and had the big tour there and everything.
Oh, nice.
And there's this one bar in Pilsen that serves, it's the only place in the world that serves the cave beer, which is the beer they still make. They make a batch of it every week, ferment it in a cave, open top fermentations. And that's how it was originally made. And then they compare the, industrial Pilsner Raquel you buy in the supermarket with the cave one and basically make sure that they're as near as damn it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they only make 2,000 odd litres of this cave beer every week or whatever. And it all goes to a pub across the road where it's like 89p a pint or something. And they have these broom handles coming out of the bar loaded with pretzels. Like on the end of the bar, just loaded, and you just pull a pretzel off and it's got that lovely mustard with it. And you sit there with a big pint of the rare as hen's teeth cave beer and just munch your way through, a dozen pretzels kind of thing, dipping them in that mustard. It's wicked. So good.
That is unreal. Need to go back to Germany. Is Pilsner, is that the thing with Pilsner? It's brewed colder or fermented colder or something?
It's all about water profile. So Pilsen in the Czech Republic, in Prague, just outside Prague, their water originally came from the lake and the water's very soft, a bit like Yorkshire water kind of thing. And they say they invented certain elements of lager making. They've had a constant beef with Carlsberg about the yeast. Who used the yeast first, who used it, they bake the malt. So the malt is a pale malt, but then they almost bake the bottom of the copper to caramelize the malt to give it the color. And so they do that. They still do that traditional method. Nowadays, we just add malt to make it that color, but they bake it, they kind of caramelize it, they burn it. But it's an incredible place. Even though it's now owned by a big multinational and everything, they've kind of left them alone to continue to sort of brew it on a mammoth scale, obviously. But there are loads of traditions they still keep to try and keep the beer as near as it can be. But it's a mad place. It's a great tour. There's 9 kilometers of cellars and caves.
Oh, wow.
And you go underground, and all the cellars have got these gutters chiseled in them that are really wide, and there's water running down it all the time. And you turn this corner and there's this cave the size of a church with a big hole in the ceiling. And originally they'd cut the ice out of the lake, drop it down the hole and fill this 8-story hole full of blocks of ice. That ice would then melt, funnel into the channels that run around all these cellars and keep all the beer cold. Yeah, it's a really, really, really cool place.
Yeah,
really
cool.
Unreal.
For the record, I would put Greg's in Goodison. I think some sort of German beer house needs to go in there now, or a Czech one, whatever. And just on the subject of that, when I first started going the game, here we go, old man Roberts is out again. There was actually a Sayers in the family.
Bring back Sayers,
yeah. If Everton was a full English breakfast, which players, which food item? And this is that Maybe we should keep that one till the end. That sounds like
yeah. That's a
have a
thinker as
about
well. That.
It's gonna cause me about what items are on a full English. Potatoes have got no place in my full English world, but you might think differently. So we'll come back to that one at the end. So we can pause in the Maggie round for now. Charlotte has asked, brains, beauty, muscles, what Everton player would you pick for each one? DCL for all three, innit?
He's definitely for beauty and muscles, isn't he? Yeah. Do you know what I think? I think Onana for the brains, because I think for a 20-year-old lad to be so intelligent and mature as he is.
Onana for all three. He looks like a very intelligent lad. He's a good-looking fella, and he's built.
I think everyone likes TCL, though, don't they? All the ladies love TCL, but just because he's just not. You've got. I don't know. You've got you can look at someone and go, they're fit, and you look at someone and you go, they're beautiful. I think there's do you know what I mean? There's a difference, and I think a lot of. I don't know. I could be shot down here for this comment, but I think a lot of women look at TCL and go, he might be fit, but he's beautiful. He's really beautiful. Very nice features. You know what I mean? And all that. So, DCL's got a good shout for all three, though, as you say, Les, hasn't he?
So if we split them out, then brains. Tom Davies has got to get one of them.
Tom Davies, brains.
He seems to switch on that, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Brains.
He likes his, he likes his art. He likes his fashion. He likes just sort of. He's a cultured kid, isn't he?
Cultured is the word. Yeah, give him the brains.
Yeah. Beauty.
DCL.
Yeah. Muscles.
Onana. Tarkovsky.
I reckon Yeah, I reckon he's a bit ripped under there.
Yeah, I reckon he's probably built, isn't he?
They're all players and physiques and brains and brawn and muscle a lot that we just, we'd love to be, but unfortunately, not us as a gentleman.
Do you know what is good though? As up and down as Everton has been over the past however many years, there's been a constant thread of Team Handsome, hasn't there?
Yeah,
it's always been a pretty good-looking team.
It's very much it's been a bit of an Achilles heel, hasn't it? To a degree, because it's something that for quite a while has clouded our judgment on players.
Yeah. Anyone in particular you're thinking about?
No, I don't know. I think with him in particular, it really did cloud people's judgment.
Yeah. I
think, that loan season was good. It was, you know what we're like. We go head over heels. Ben Godfrey's the best thing since sliced bread because he's charged into a couple of tackles in his first year.
He's a good one for muscles as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And we kind of get a bit lost in it all. But Gomez was the epitome of that because he was pretty shocking. And you'd say something mildly kind of, derogatory about him on Twitter, and you just get people saying he's a lovely guy and he hugs people and he's so handsome and his hair's great. And you're like, yeah, but he's crap.
But he was a good-looking boy. You can't deny that. Very good-looking man.
But he was movie star kind of looks, wasn't he? He was kind of, he should have been in a Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
Not a main character.
I mean more when Harry met Sally for me. But there you go.
If there's two words that do not sum up, it's Fast and Furious.
Slow and ponderous.
That was Everton's midfield last season, wasn't it? Keith replied to this and said, "Make Charles Thirsty Corner a weekly segment."
So Maggie's rounds and Charles Thirsty Corner. Yeah, let's. I mean,
I'm more than happy with that.
Yes,
maybe we'll have a song round as well. That can be the element.
Yeah.
Always one from me. What's the most boring or contrived football rivalry? So what made me think of this was all the nonsense about Nick Pope, particularly from that American Twitter account, who were definitely just boiling piss in the end, weren't they?
Arsenal or whatever.
You knew the buttons to push. It was amazing. But yeah, this England goalkeeper thing, it's rubbish. It's contrived because no one is anywhere near Jordan Pickford.
I've said now, both on air and online on social media, just let Ramsdale have it because it'll just stop this boring arse arguments. course, I want Pickford to be the number one for England, but as long as he's doing the business for us, I couldn't care less. Just give it to Ramsdale or Pope or Eden. Just let them have it because it's so tedious. Every time one of them makes like an half decent save, straight away Sky Sports can't help themselves, can they? Tweet him, should he be number one? So just let him be number one, and just let's go with that because it'll just stop this boring arse arguments.
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, you know, I couldn't care less about the World Cup. Probably won't watch much of it. Don't really care.
I'm boycotting.
You know, couldn't care less. But there's no doubt that Southgate's gone after, right? I think that's pretty much, you know, I can't see him lasting. They'll let him do this, and whatever happens, happens. But he'll be gone, I reckon. It looks like he's had enough anyway. He's coming across a bit agitated and, you know, perturbed in interviews. He's clearly not really digging the criticism very much. So I reckon he's gone. He has been Pickford's sort of champion, hasn't he? All the way through. He's not wavered. He's always said he's my number one, blah, 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 blah. Maybe when next year, when Southgate potentially leaves and they bring someone else in, there might be a genuine movement of who is the number one. But I just think, I'm like you, I just, you know, someone pulls off a half decent save at the weekend and the next thing you know, there's a poll. There's a poll. And
there's always a poll.
And it's like, you know, and it's, you know, I quite like seeing, you know, the sort of complete madness that goes on when, you know, Pickford makes one error, the kind of fallacy that he's good for England and terrible for us. You know, all the narratives that come out that he's all right, you know, he's not great with his feet. You know, all this, you know, there's this stuff being bandied around that he's not actually very good with his feet at all. And I'm like you, sometimes I just think, do you know what? Give it to Ramsdale and give him enough rope to hang himself with, and let's just have our goalkeeper back and not worry about it anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he loves it, doesn't he? That's the thing. Pickford loves it. He clearly loves it. Clearly loves playing for his country. It's clearly very, very important to him. But the narrative is just, it's so
tedious, boring.
Yeah, it's tiresome. And I mean, it's nearly as bad as, you know, when you're saying fake rivalries or whatever. It's the Newcastle thing with us, isn't it? It's the same thing. You know, Newcastle's weird obsession with
West Ham every now and again becomes a rivalry, done it?
And you know, it's just weird. But, you know,
I'll tell you what is a boring rivalry as well. Arsenal fans against Arsenal fan TV. Like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, I'm all for, like, I mean, you know, I'd be a hypocrite to say, when, especially on the platform we're on now, to say that fan interaction and fan, you know, media is tedious. But some of these fan YouTube channels and some of the stuff you hear from other teams and other clubs, I'm just like, I must admit, like, I mean, even the Mark, what's his name, the Man United one, Mark. Yeah, even like some of the stuff that, like, every time they lose a game and someone lashes a tweet up, oh, it's the funniest thing. I'm like, it's not. It's just a fella, obviously. I just don't find them funny or interesting.
I'll tell you one thing I always find funny though: the Anfield edition lads losing the shit. That's always
That the Irish fella,
the baldy fella, yeah, and the fella with the beard.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of allowed because it's us and them. And like, we've not got that fair, but I just and the way all these fan things now have got famous, and you know, like, what was that game last week? YouTube against whoever it was off the YouTube teams. Like, it's just, and like, I was thinking about this today. Do you remember the old, like, the soccer aids? They used to be like really serious games then, and now they've just become just celebrity, like, you know, it's just another version of a reality TV show, but just happens to be having a game of football. It's not.
I think my issue with fan media, as you say, could be slightly hypocritical being on the platform that I'm on at the minute, but I think they're either insincere, like the Arsenal lot. I think they're just going for just clicks and outrage and just be as, you know, how can you wear that level of anger about things that they do? You know, on camera, when you've got to be conscious of it, so it's just weird, and it's not sincere for me. It's all done for numbers. It's outrage for numbers. And then you've got other ones that just take themselves too seriously. It's kind of, you've got to be just sincere in what you're saying and have a laugh. It's like, that's...
You're really opening yourself up to be sort of shot down in hindsight when you do watch-alongs, aren't you? Do you know what I mean?
And that's another phenomenon. I do not get. Why does everyone watch that?
If you're going to do a watch-along where you're digging out a player constantly, how many times have we been there?
Oh God, yeah.
Where you're like, this guy's. I mean, the famous thing was years ago. My mate still brings it up to this day. Was when Faustino Asprilla joined Newcastle, and we were watching the game, and I said, "This guy is absolute showboat gash, right? He's terrible." And he's got a hat.
That's the title of the show right there.
and he's got a hat trick, and they're all worldies, and he was amazing. And my mate still brings it up to this day. He goes, "Oh, do you remember when you said that Faustino Asprilla was showboat gash?" I'm just like, will you just let that go? You know, but
yeah.
But had I said that in a watch along, then
that never leaves you then, does it?
I'm just opening myself up for being hindsight destroyed by everybody.
Yeah.
Because that's what, especially a lot of the stuff that Big Red does, especially the guy with the baseball cap, Hendo scored, that kid. And he's like the king of it. He's the absolute. It's almost like
he clearly does it for clicks and like Les was saying before.
It's almost like it's recorded after, and he knows that that's gonna.
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean.
Obviously, yeah.
But
do you know what makes it even worse for me though? Like, what person sits there on a 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon and goes, "I know, I'll switch my laptop on. I'm going to watch three fellas watching a game of football." I can't process that. I mean, I just don't get it.
And the flip side of that is, what person wants people to watch them watching a game? I don't want anyone to see my reactions at the game.
No.
I turn into a complete knobhead. I mean, you could say, what do you mean turn into one? But you're not at your best at the match, are you?
No. God, no.
No one is. Yeah, very, very.
But when you've had a few Underbergs, which, by the way, we all like an Underberg.
Joe has asked, Prince Charles, he corrected himself, Carlos Ray, falls down the toilet and the football's off again. So you decide to go away on a long weekend with an Everton player. Who'd you pick and where'd you go?
I go to New York with Tom Davis.
Oh, God, yeah, what a shout.
I go to New York with Tom Davis. We hit up some flea markets in Brooklyn. Full hipster, full proper ridiculous, pour over coffees in the morning. You know, we have some flea markets. We get back on the F train back into town, and we hit some art galleries, maybe grab a martini on a rooftop terrace. You know, I've got us a couple of tickets to see the New York Knicks. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Treat him. I thought I'd treat him. And you know, we end up drinking lashings and lashings of craft beer somewhere, overlooking the Hudson or something. And yeah.
Moustaches are getting twirled a lot of this. On this
oh yeah. There's moustaches. There's people weighing stuff on scales. But yeah, me and Tom rocking some heavy velour and corduroy. You know, drinking pour over coffee, you know, wandering through Central Park.
Can I come?
Yes, you're in. Yeah.
Yes, I've got loads of corduroy. I have actually got a full, apart from the shoes, a full corduroy outfit now. So I've got a cord overshirt, I've got a cord trucker jacket, my cord bucket hat, I've got a cord t-shirt, but it's as near as to a full cord rig out. I might just wear it now. It's autumn. It's the only chance I'm gonna get, isn't it?
I was wearing my cord bucket this morning.
It's the season, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is.
Go for it.
Warren, where are you going? Who with?
Me and Nathan Patterson were going on a tour of Scotland, and yeah, he's gonna introduce me to the family, show me a few of his haunts back in Glasgow, and then we're going to maybe go to a bit more of the Scottish countryside and see what's around, and just go a bit scally with him, you know what I mean? So yeah, me and Nathan Patterson.
Yeah, do that. Once
like
you've gone north, go further north.
Yeah.
I like the way you went full Partridge there, Les.
What did they do?
You went, where you going and who you go with?
There's always something, isn't there? Ahmed said that was my favourite Bent goal. Neil Mope reminds me of Bent. So this is just a comment on the GIF that I put on, which was the Marcus Bent goal against
Southampton, wasn't it?
Yeah. I did have another one that I was going to put up, which was Ramsdale conceding the fourth against Hungary. So I made a GIF of that. It's very funny. Nobody sort of dives out the way of it.
Yeah.
Views from behind where it's like, what are you doing? He just dives out the way. Funny. But yeah, that Bent goal was great.
Mope's better than Bent, isn't he?
I think he looks
a quality player.
I think he looks technically a bit better.
Yeah.
I mean, Bent did what Bent did for that season, but I think Mope's Mope's a much better player.
I think technically he will be.
Yeah.
Where are we now? We are on Mike Blakey. So on that game, 2-2, he watched that in a pub in Nottingham, waiting for a National Express back to Leeds. Where have you celebrated an Everton goal alone in a crowded place?
God, there's been a few. I remember that the first time Duncan took charge when we beat Chelsea, and I went absolutely scatty when we won that, especially when it was the first goal and our third goal. Because 2-1, yeah, give it loads and that. But 3-1, I was in a pub down here, and I think the whole thing of Duncan taking charge and, Chelsea being a big game, the game that it was, and everything, I think that hyper emotional and probably it should have been. And yeah, when that third went in, I went absolutely scatting. It was one of them where it's relatively bit of noise, bit of hush noise, but nothing too. Everyone had their eye on the game, and I going mad. Definitely had a few heads turn and look at me, but at that point, you don't care, do you? When your team scored, so you just crack on with it. Yeah, I think that game, I've been far too many watching on telly that I would have liked to, though. But I've done the reverse of that. When Liverpool played Tottenham a few years ago, and it was at Anfield, and I was watching it down here. I get very aggressive when Liverpool play down here when I'm out, because there's a lot of Liverpool fans down here, and I can't. When I've had a few as well, I turn into, why are you a Liverpool fan? Like,
it's a certain type of Liverpool fan as well, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It's the worst type. So I start getting, passive aggressive. And for an example being, there was a group of them in front of us, Reds, watching it. Oh, mate, I support Liverpool, didn't I? And they got a corner. They got
Dan's loving your Cockney accent there, mate.
They got a corner, and come on, let's go, let's score from this and all that. And I'm there and I'm going, all right, which part of Liverpool are you from then, mate? Like that, because I'm like that, because I'm just a bit of a dickhead like that. And he turns around, do you support Everton? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Like, really? And I'm not like that. You know me, Les, like we've been out colours. I'm not an aggressive person whatsoever. But there's something about Southern Reds which just turn me and get me that way. So I'm the reverse of that. Rather than going mad in a pub when Everton score, I go very aggressive when Liverpool are playing down here. So I'm the opposite really for that.
What the internet needs now is a watch along of Warren watching Liverpool games in the pub.
It's down south.
I would watch that all day.
Yeah.
The one I can remember is it was horrible. I was late meeting a mate of mine in Camden to watch the FA Cup final, Everton.
Oh.
Chelsea or Man United?
Chelsea. And I was running late, and I was cutting through past what I lived near Kentish Town, so I was cutting back through. And I had a quick look, because I knew I was late, and I had a quick dip into a little pub that was pretty quiet, and Louis Saha scored. As I dipped my head in, and I just went absolutely mental.
Yeah.
Went absolutely outside the pub, literally standing on the threshold of the pub, went absolutely mental,
Banging on the windows like that.
Yeah. And then my mate rung me, and you could hear the pub, and he was like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm outside the Fiddler's Elbow, going mental." And I'm just like there going, "Ah!" like that. And then quickly legged it to the pub, and obviously the rest is a very, tragic tale, isn't it? But yeah, that was sort of not a crowded room, but me on my own on a doorstep.
Probably weren't even going into.
with a lot of old Irish fellas going.
I can't think of anything, because I think every time I've watched the game on my own somewhere, we haven't scored. One time we got leathered. So I watched we drew 0-0 with Man City one time. It was in Australia. So I watched that in an empty pub in Sydney. And then when we played Arsenal on the second to last game in 97, 98, when they beat us 4-0 to win the league, I was in a pub down in Cirencester, full of Arsenal fans, teleclappers, I think, down there. But yeah, it was grim. So I was literally on my own, the only non-Arsenal supporting person in the pub, watching Tony Adams volley that I think it was the fourth one. And just thinking, we're down here. It was horrible.
Was that the last game of Highbury as well? No,
it was a bit later.
After that,
a bit later.
A couple of seasons, wasn't it? But oh god, that was grim. Did not fancy that. Last question then is Maggie's. If Everton was a full English breakfast, which player is which food item? So let's go with the sausage.
Let's go
in this full English.
The sausage. Do you know what? He had a good game, James Garner, apparently the other night. Then he'd be a few sausages on the plate, wouldn't he?
It's an interesting theory. I don't know where we go.
Whatever answer we give here, it's just not
going to work. Spoke about
he's more of a chipolata, though, isn't he? He's more of a chipolata. He's quite slight, isn't he? Quite slender.
Yeah.
Garner. So it's more of a chip.
We need a bit more thickness for our chipolata.
Sausage.
Rondon sausages.
I reckon.
Yeah, let's go Rondon then as the sausage.
Yeah, I need to stop talking about sausages on Mailbag. Eggs next. Use the egg. Frank Lampard.
Michaelenko with that little neck and frame he's got, and little head, looks like a little egg head.
If he put those massive shoulders up,
yeah,
it could look like 3 eggs, couldn't it?
Yeah, Michaelenko's the egg.
His shoulders are outrageous. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Rondon's the sausage, Michaelenko's the egg. Beans. Are we having beans? Not everyone wants beans.
I think you've got to have 2 players for beans, because beans are quite all over the plate, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I think my beans will be Big Graham and Tony Gordon. The way they all spread out everywhere. So them 2, they're your beans.
Would you be using your sausage as a barrier to stop your beans encroaching?
Well,
because
if we're talking barriers to things, we are talking Rondon, aren't we?
Yeah.
because if you think about a defensive deep line midfield player and your wingers are your beans, that stops the beans reaching the egg, which is your Michaelenko.
Do you know what? One thing I will say about Rondon is he has got good hold-up play. Not so good with it, but he's got good hold-up play, which is kind of what you're suggesting the sausage is doing.
A good brekkie stop 2 sausages. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. One sausage you're getting shortchanged. So we'll have Rondon, and who else, Dan? Who's the defensive mid? Who's going to do that?
Well, I'm all for this Garner chipolata thing.
Yeah.
Not Idrissa Garner, James Garner.
James Garner.
Garner chipolata.
I'm the Birkenhead chipolata.
Some people have said that to me, but that's another story.
And so I'm thinking, then he is your meat barrier.
Anyway,
are we having bacon? Are we having bacon?
Oh God, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Bacon.
I'm not a bacon fan. I've
Salty
never
member
liked
of the
bacon.
squad.
So go on, you choose the bacon, Dan.
So it's going to
Coffee.
be, yeah, it's salty, isn't it? Well,
Yeah.
I was going to see, I was going to say Nathan Patterson's your square sausage or your black pudding, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know,
Just
So
purely
maybe-
based on where he's from, definitely.
yeah. It's functional, meaty, you know, but I think salty player. Yeah, your turkey, bit of crispy bacon.
Yeah. What else? We've got mushrooms. Having mushrooms.
Tom Davis,
Cultured.
cultured and the hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, mushrooms, I'll go with that.
Good shout.
I do like a hash brown on my brekkie, I'm
Go on, then
afraid,
you can
Les.
have buds. Go on.
So
Who's
I'm gonna say my hash brown is gonna be Seamus Coleman. Solid, dependable,
Carbohydrate.
carbohydrate.
That's just made me think of a potential acronym like Jordan Henderson's Neighbourly, but for Coleman, and we start with carbohydrates.
Carbo Coleman.
Are we having toast?
Oh God, yeah.
That's the rest of the squad. What it be, surely?
What? Just a big stack of toast, and it's
Big stack
a
of
Woby,
toast. Yeah.
the
Have we
Woby.
missed anything off there? So we've got sausages, eggs, bacon, mushroom, black pudding.
Beans.
Square sausage, take your pick. We'll give Nathan Patterson the black pudding.
Yeah.
Beans.
Beans, we've got the wingers.
Yeah. But we've got to get a Woby in there. What's a Woby? A cup of tea?
Yeah.
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 He's the
Nice,
sort of perfect
nice an
accompaniment.
accompaniment to the brekkie,
Yes.
Yeah.
as he is
But we-
accompanying our midfield at the minute.
Yeah. A central player
Yeah.
to the cohesiveness of the breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then toast, just everyone else.
Everyone else.
Everyone else has
And
not been mentioned.
Lampard is the softened butter
Yeah.
Did we
In
say
the
the egg
bucket.
was?
in the butter dish of Ashley.
Michaelenko.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. Michaelenko the egg.
Yeah.
So what was that about Lampard being the butter? He's the softened butter.
Lampard the butter, softened butter in the Ashley Cole butter dish.
Yeah.
The Paul Clement butter dish.
That question went much better than I expected.
Yeah.
It really did.
As soon as we got off the sausage part, we were great.
Yeah, as soon as we swerved that. So TWS has just said, I appreciate that I'm not mailbag crew. Everyone's mailbag crew.
Everyone.
Everyone is mailbag crew. But I feel compelled to share that I saw this goal in a busy Oxford pub and accidentally flipped my table celebrating. You're definitely mailbag crew.
TWS.
Present. It was Andy Johnson's 91st minute winner against Spurs. I'm gonna say. Oh,
Arsenal. Arsenal.
Is that in the snow?
That was Arsenal.
In the
Sorry,
sleet.
Arsenal.
Yeah. In the
Yeah.
sleet.
Tremendous scenes and a table flipping. What a way to finish the podcast.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, so TWS, you are mailbag crew.
Showboat Gash.
That's the question now. Do we call this Showboat Gash or Slow and Ponderous? Or Slow and Ponderous Showboat Gash?
That's up to you, Leslie.
There we go.
Leave that with you.
It's up to Matt, really. Everything's up to Matt. Nice one, lads. Enjoyed that. Thanks, Warren. Thanks, Dan. Thanks to everyone who sent questions in. We'll catch you next time on Mailbag.